Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and this is Justice for All. And boy, I got some good ones tonight for you. And Susan has jumped in and said, Hi, happy Monday. Boy, we got some storms that came through last night, and a transformer blew, but it didn't get us. Thank goodness. Now, hopefully, I'm gonna check this while I had it fixed earlier. There we go. There we go. All right. I don't know why I've got issues with it, and I've got a hold of StreamYard, and they don't know what's wrong. They say, you being blocked by somebody? Huh. Conspiracy. I call them conspiracy theorists. Yeah. All right. Uh, so tonight we got some weird, strange things that would make you mad. I'm going to start off with the housing disaster. Now, this happened in North Carolina, and many of you could probably, some of you could relate to this. Now, this one I heard from, um, let's see, WTVD. This was in North Carolina. So this family um, got their dream home, and come to find out, things just didn't weren't right. Now, I've seen homes like this before. Um, you know, the doors aren't shutting right. They just don't. Something's crooked, and so this is what happened to this one family's dream home. It becomes a nightmare after code violations were missed during inspections. And so the building inspector quite likely came out and inspected various stages of construction. And they don't come out at the end looking okay. Um, and the foundation uh, wasn't right. The framing wasn't right. The structure wasn't right. The electrical wasn't right. The plumbing wasn't right. And this was after the house was built. So, what happened to the um, housing authority and inspectors that inspect it all the way through? Now, I've got plumbing friends, and I know that it has to be right. They come out and they really look at it. So, so you're starting with the foundation that was poured wrong, and it was wet, and so the crawl space, they could see um, it wasn't done right. And so, various stages, the inspector should have caught this. So, really, the house at the foundation, it never should have even had the starting of the building on top of it. Or if the plumbing wasn't right, when they'll lay your foundation and then they put the plumbing in there, usually real close to it. Well, if the plumbing wasn't right at that stage, they should have caught it. So these poor people, I mean, even the drywall, the framing, they said they looked up in the main bearing wall, which is the wall that holds up your house. It was crooked, and then the nails didn't look right. Um, so, um, so they moved into their home, and it's on 10 acres, and they hired a licensed builder to construct their dream home. And during the construction, it passed every single inspection done by Chatham County. And shortly after getting the certificate of occupancy, then they started noticing major problems with the house. Um, One, a beam wasn't nailed together to the ceiling. It was lacking of being connected. Um, the Some of the boards were already separating and pulled apart, enough for them to get their fingers through. They said there was humps running through the floor length of their house. It wasn't even. They could see raised portions that um, were uneven with the next set of flooring. So the county building inspector supervisor went out and documented more than a dozen code violations, and asked, uh, there's a, they said they spotted not only issues with the inspections, but the house should have never been built. The state fire marshal, which oversees a lot of it, came out and found 15 code violations of involving fire safety, which means the electrical was wrong. And so the family walked a TV reporter through the home showing all kinds of code violations and pointed out uh, more failure to a damp proof foundation. For instance, the crawl space, there are several code violations. And so uh, now the thing is so the house never should have been built after the foundation was put in. William, I don't know how much you know about this stuff, uh, but so they had to go to court to sue the builder, and they also sued the city for their inspectors not properly inspecting the building as it went. So the judge did order the builders to pay the family 225,000 for breach of contract and breach of warranty. And they have every right because along with the builder, you should have a warranty on this. That you have so many days to find problems, and they'll come back and fix them. And most, like your plumbers, will do that. Your electricians will do that. Your usually your foundation and foundation is someone different that pours your concrete. So, um, and then you at each stage, then you have the city inspector come out. Well, the city inspector came out, and the judge weirdly uh, sided with the city, and they weren't charged for what they had not caught because of the warranties. Now, so the people that lived in the house said the county really failed them, and giving them and passing it to the point of certificate of occupation. So um, the county has liability to a certain point because they missed something during inspection doesn't mean they were at fault. Uh, Maybe they didn't look deep enough, but you have to look at what the inspectors can look at. So each state is different. Yeah, they rubber stamped it. Oh, they did. And that this happens a lot, folks. Um, I had a friend that had a house that, something just wasn't right. And it was a brand new house built. And because they were in such a hurry to get the subdivision built, they cut corners. Now, when they moved in, they started seeing a lot of issues. Now, they did have the builders come back in and fix it. And they did. And without no extra cost. And that's how it should be done. But you don't always get that. And this guy here was saying, no, sue me. I did it right, sue me. And so when they had someone come in that was neutral inspector and another builder come in, then they had showed dozens. So now think of this. This was like 12 dozens of code violations, 15 with safety. So the house had to be torn down and rebuilt. And thank goodness they got their 225,000. So buyer beware. When you're having a house built, you make sure if something doesn't look right, you check it yourself, because they checked it after they moved in, and then they started noticing things. No, you gotta look. Anything you buy for services for someone to come in, look it over. Make sure you take your time and you look it over, no matter what it is, whether it's a plumber unclogging your toilet with a snake. Make sure the toilet's flush. And another thing, I'm going to say that I've learned from plumbers, turn your bathtub on and make sure it drains, because they'll leave and you'll go to take a shower, and all of a sudden your shower and your toilet's clogged up once again. So Before the plumbers leave, make sure you turn on your tubs and showers and your faucets and make sure everything drains properly. So, wow. Yeah, they Karen's right, and that was something that was brought up is it shouldn't have gone past the foundation. And that's what when they had the other inspectors come in and look at it, that's what they said. It never should have went beyond the foundation because the foundation wasn't right. The crawl space underneath wasn't right. So it was faulty from the first stage of your house being built, of this house being built. All right. So this next one, oh boy. Now, we always think that, we put the right police commissioners into office. Now, this one, um, a police commissioner caught with a sex worker, and he says she unexpectedly jumped into his truck. But the story unfolded in such a way that it basically didn't make any sense. This was a Detroit police commissioner was allegedly caught in the sex acts with a known prostitute. And according to Fox 2 News of Detroit, he says this whole situation is a horrible misunderstanding. She ran up and jumped into his truck and pulled his pants off. And I know a bunch of you are laughing, but when these political people get in trouble, they tend to think they have the power to lie and have everybody believe them. Deputies were working undercover in the area of Schaefer Road and Sorrento Avenue in Detroit when they found a man engaged in a sex act. They didn't know who he was, but they did know the woman. And this was 7 o'clock in the morning. And they found a man engaged in an act with a woman in a vehicle. And he identified himself, and he was dumb for doing this. He identified himself as a Detroit police commissioner and asked if they could possibly, help me out, wink, wink. Could you, really help me out on this situation and get me out of this situation? Wink, wink. They cited him for indecent and obscene conduct, and they had his vehicle towed. And the woman was also ticketed. And now the statement was released from the commissioner. He said he was in a situation and they had it wrong. The police department had a misunderstanding. The woman unexpectedly jumped into his truck and he was trying to get her to leave. And I'm guessing somehow in the process, he says, his pants got pulled off. She didn't want to leave his truck. And he says, you should really lock your doors and not if you pull up and someone jumps in your truck, then you should take off and push them out. Okay. So he was simply trying just to get her to leave his truck because she jumped in unexpectedly. He said, now I'm looking for more information on the X story and a short story. He says, it's meant to be a very short story and there's nothing to this. So the Detroit police commissioner resigned following this scandal. And so he says the woman, he jumped into his truck. He stuck with the story, trying to get her to leave. The cops came along in the wrong place at the wrong time of a kind of thing that was going to be a distraction. So now he has to resign. And so he represented District 1 for the Detroit Police Board of Commissioners, which is an 11-member civilian board with supervisory authority over the Detroit Police Department. He again asked the police chief, could you help me out? Could you work something to where this isn't going to go so public? Well, when it didn't, he was forced to resign. He said, "It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the residents of Detroit and the police oversight. After further consideration of the best interest of his family, he's a family man and a board a member. He is upstanding in the city. He's choosing to resign as district police commissioner." So these were undercover narcotics officers, and what they did is they got a tip that this prostitute could be um, in the form of prostitution and drug ring. So they were following her. And so they did watch exactly what had happened. And she did get in his vehicle at 7:15. And um, when it came down to it, he basically had to resign. Um, he was charged with indecent and obscene conduct. And decent part of is often whether or not things are exposed, or that is indecent, obscene. So it wasn't just his pants were down. There had to be bodily parts that were seen by the officers. So these undercover cops did get a hold of him, did charge him, and then if he wouldn't have said anything, if he wouldn't have said, "I'm the police commissioner," they probably would have never known. And it probably wouldn't have hit the papers. And he probably could have done this quietly. But he wanted to push it around saying, "We could, yeah, you guys can handle this. You guys can do me a favor, right?" Wink, wink. All the way to the police chief. Now, you got to wonder, at 7 o'clock in the morning, really? Wow. Is it just bad timing? Or did he just let out a little bit more than what he should have? Oh boy. So this next one is a license scam. Now, this isn't just, and when I looked it up, it isn't just Ohio. This is at least 25 states across the country where you go, and you know how you can go online to you can renew your license, and they'll send you a new one. You don't necessarily have to go in the office. Everything's going online. Well, uh, come to find out, in Ohio, this comes from WKBN. Now, Ohio warns of a driver's license scam. Um, so, not only that, but Colorado, New York, they're saying Illinois, a lot of the southern states. I called, they don't have the scam here. Texas, California, Nevada, Arizona. Um, Wyoming, Montana. So if you're in a state, I think Pennsylvania for Karen and Susan. I didn't hear Washington State, and it didn't list it in the article. I had to go hunt it up. Um, Now, this when you go online, um, and people do a lot of stuff online because they just can't quite get out. And what they did is they went online, and so of course you got to give your driver's license number, right? So when you do, and these states have had their systems hacked, not all throughout the state, just some, where the motor vehicles or wherever you get your licensing done, their systems were hacked. And what it was is there was these people taking these driver's license, putting it in a new uh, state or another county, and they were robbing places or committing crimes. And not only that, but they could use it for information, to where they could use it for identification, to get an identification card, but with their picture on it. And which means they could do basically scam you for out of a lot of money, and or commit crimes on it. So this was something that Columbus said that they really wanted to pull this out. Now, this was first discovered in Texas and involves a stolen personal information. And there was thousands of unauthorized replacement driver's license that were issued. So you see what they did? So they could go and commit a crime, and then get this. There was dozens of people that were arrested for crimes, tickets on cars. And they gave that ID. And when they didn't pay, then all of a sudden you've got a warrant for your arrest. And these guys were going around doing those that are doing the get in front of you and slam on their brakes, and they'd hit you, and then they'd sue you and get a lot of money. It's a lot of this going on too with this. So, in between them being able to use your ID or committing a crime, dozens of, they're saying over 1,000 people have been affected just since the beginning of the year. So be very careful. Be very, very careful. Um, Now, this next one, so I'm really hoping it shows it. Um, this man, and this is weird but true. Uh, Justice, they say. I don't see no justice, just a weird guy. So he spent 14,000 to transform himself into a collie. He wanted to be a collie so bad that he had spent 14,000 on a suit that looked just like a collie dog, so he could wander around with his girlfriend that had a leash on him, and he could wander around the city and be a collie. Oh yeah. Now I'm really hoping that you guys can see this. Uh, Let me get rid of that is the costume, folks. Look how real that is. Look how real that costume was. Um, and he said at first he was scared. He was scared to go out. But then I wish I can. It's not going to let me enlarge it. Well, maybe. There we go. At first he was scared to go out. He said he was shy. But then he decided, well, no one would know it was him. So he had his girlfriend take him out for a walk. Okay. And it's gone viral. Um, okay, so you're thinking, what woman, who would actually do this? Yeah, there she is. There he is, out for a walk. The happy couple. That folks, I know they have these costume pet parties, and the cat parties, the dog parties, and or the animals, and yeah, this is weird. I mean, weird but true. This is weird. Definitely weird. Oh boy. So, and I'm gonna move along. Uh, I love it. Thank you, Susan. I didn't want to say it, but we have somebody that put it in the chat room, Susan. Someone please open more mental hospitals. What happened? That's what I keep saying on my news show. What happened? And right around 2018, 19, it got really bad in 2020. It just only went worse. And was it the fentanyl? Is it the chemtrails? Is it what? Oh, yikes. We're going to have a job come the next election, or if this administration doesn't start opening hospitals, because even the homeless they're really out there, even the ones that don't even are on drugs. They're just mental patients. All right, so California. Well, it's not just California. I found out at least 4 or 5 other states that are doing this. um, the electric bike. Well, they're finding, and now these bikes go in between 20 and 30 miles an hour. Okay. Now, I had a kid, a friend of my granddaughter's, that had one. He had it going 40 on his. It just depends what kind of motor you put on these bikes. And now, since kids from the ages of 12 are getting on these bikes and they're riding them on roads and they're driving in traffic. And some are even going against traffic because they don't know the laws of the road. So now California and a dozen um, states are wanting them to get a driver's license or a bike license. Now, when I first heard driver's license for California, I was like, oh no, oh no, no, I know what they're going to use this for. Yeah, well, it did pass, but it was 16 and above. So California didn't get 12-year-olds, but they got 16 and above, and it's a bike license. It's not a driver's license like California and Newsom wanted. So they say these. So if you don't know what an e-bike is, looks like a bicycle with a motor on it, and these kids are going on to get this. There was one kid that was on the freeway. Can you imagine a bike on the freeway going 30, 40 miles an hour? It'd be backing traffic up. And these kids don't understand. They said, well, it's got a motor. I should be able to drive it. But when you got a 12-year-old, folks, that are driving against traffic, there's needs to be some laws on these e-bikes. Now, we're finding out even some of these scooters that have come out, they go about the same speed. And now they're taking these on the roads now. So not only is it the e-bikes, but it's the scooters. It's just got the handlebars and then the flat back that you stand on and then you hold on. Well, they'll go about as fast, and now they're finding these on the roads. So it's not, it's hard enough we had to keep an eye out for the motorcycles because you can't quite see them. Now we've got scooters and e-bikes that should be staying in the bike lanes because one kid asked, he was a 17-year-old, well, where am I supposed to drive my bike? And they said in the bike lane. Well, this isn't a bicycle. This isn't like a mini motorcycle, like a moped. No, no, this is a bicycle with a motor on it. So now we're starting to see state after state after state going after the e-bikes that they have to have a bike license. So yeah. One of the last things I want to bring up is you remember the shroud, the covering that they said went over Christ? Well, they have been investigating this since they found it. And lo and behold, it was on Glenn Beck. But I read it through Jerusalem News and also Israeli news. Quite a few places have now put this out. This now they have found out after so many years, since the 70s, that the shroud does date back to the time of Christ. Now, it did have the marks, but you got to remember when they killed, look at the other, with Christ on the cross, you had to look at what the other two, they were um, they were crucified the same way. And most of the bodies, if they were somebody or had family that loved them, they were covered in a cloth. So they can't say that it was Christ, but since it was preserved as his shroud, many of the scientists and the science community is saying that this shroud, about a 90% chance that it came from Christ. So I thought that was awesome news. All right, folks. So that is it for Justice for All. And I'm glad you decided to come and watch, share, and hit the like button. We only try to do a 30-minute show for Justice for All. It's quick, it's fun, funny. Yeah, the collie thing. Yeah. Builders, bad builders. We tried to give you some good news and some justice. And uh, the biggest part of all of this is to warn people when they're done wrong. And there's many, many, many more that we have found that we can bring to you each week. I'm probably loaded up for a couple months. I mean, I keep seeing them and I'm like, oh, I need that. All right. So subscribe and share it with family and friends. We don't get too political on Justice for All. So it's another show that you can watch that you can maybe get mad, you can throw popcorn and or get a smile and maybe a laugh. So come on back next week, next Monday for Justice for All. We got William coming up in 30 minutes for his show. And then come on back tomorrow. Uh, I'll be back with news, and it's going to be I'm going to bring the puppy out tomorrow. He is sleeping. He has been a terror. Uh, but I did get my puppy on Saturday, and he's cute. He's cute, and he's holding his own, and him and Jewel just love each other. I tell Jewel to leave him alone, and then he messes with her. So it's a two-way street with both of them being mean to one another. So I'll bring him out tomorrow for both shows, so you'll be able to see him. All right. You guys have a wonderful Monday, and come on back in 30 minutes for William. And I thank you all tremendously for watching and sharing the show. All right, folks. See you tomorrow. If not, we will see you in 30 minutes.